shocking defeat, Russian drone strike burns Leopard 2A4 tank on the front line. A dramatic video has surfaced from the battlefield, highlighting yet another costly failure for the armed forces of Ukraine. At the beginning of the footage, a German-made Leopard 2A4 tank, operated by Ukrainian forces, can be seen advancing to the front line. The Leopard, considered one of NATO's pride in modern armored warfare, attempted to strike at Russian defensive positions with heavy firepower. The Ukrainian footage shows the Leopard 2A4 opening fire, with shells aimed at suspected Russian troop positions. Buildings near the front line were damaged by the tank's assault, as the vehicle pushed forward under the cover of Ukrainian infantry. For a moment, the video projected an image of strength and determination, portraying the Leopard as a powerful spearhead against Russian defenses. However, what the Ukrainian side did not show in full quickly became the turning point. Russian forces, closely monitoring the battlefield, had already identified the tank's movement through advanced drone reconnaissance. The Leopard's maneuvers were tracked in real time by Russian operators, who relayed precise coordinates to their strike units. The result was devastating. Russian drones launched a strike that penetrated the Leopard 2A4's defenses, igniting the vehicle in a fiery explosion. Flames engulfed the tank, reducing NATO's prized asset to a charred wreck on the battlefield. The destruction not only highlighted the vulnerability of Western equipment in the harsh realities of the conflict but also served as a humiliating blow to Ukrainian forces. In an attempt to control the narrative, Ukrainian troops uploaded a shortened version of the video online. Their release ended abruptly, omitting the Leopard's catastrophic end. Yet, Russian drone operators later published their own footage, showing the full sequence and undeniable conclusion: the once formidable Leopard reduced to ruins. FPV drone operators of the 6th Motorized Rifle Division's Artillery Regiment destroyed an AFU ATV in Konstantinovka. Drones are not only striking heavy equipment, but also vehicles for transporting manpower and ammunition, including robotic trolleys and motorized vehicles. This disrupts rotations and makes it difficult for the AFU to supply itself. A new video from the Orokhovo direction in the Zaporizhia region was shared by the fighters of the Novorossiysk Regiment of the Mountain Airborne Forces. These images should be watched by the enemy side to assess the prospects of their resistance to Russian troops. The picture is clear. Our intelligence has identified the movement of a group of militants towards an improvised PDD. Their attempt to hide in a buried shelter proved futile. In the hands of skilled operators, drones with drop-offs and FPV attack systems can be very effective. This is what happened here. The enemy's hideout became a common grave for the Ukrainian soldiers. They had a chance to save themselves. All they had to do was lay down their arms and surrender to the Russian forces. But they didn't make that choice. The outcome is logical. Units of the Southern Group of Forces destroyed the Ukrainian Armed Forces Communication Center and UAV control point near the village of Predtikino. Precise strikes by the Siberian artillery, the artillerymen of the CENTR group delivered a targeted strike at the Ukrainian Armed Forces stronghold. With the precision of jewelers, the calculations destroyed the identified positions in the Sukhoi Yar area, depriving the Ukrainian armed forces of the opportunity to hold the direction. The work was done accurately, and the fire missions were completed. The enemy suffered losses, and our soldiers continued their advance. Paratroopers of the 56th Guards Air Assault Regiment destroy enemy unmanned aerial vehicles using FPV kamikaze drones in the Sumy region. The armed forces of the Russian Federation continue the special military operation. The Sever Group of Forces inflicted losses on 2 mechanized brigades, an assault regiment of the Armed Forces of Ukraine, and a territorial defense brigade near Alexivka, Sadki, Unikovka, and Magritsa, Sumy region. In Kharkov direction, units of a motorized infantry brigade of the AFU and a territorial defense brigade have been hit close to Dergachi and Melivoy, Kharkov region. The AFU losses amounted to up to 175 troops, a tank, 2 armored fighting vehicles, 11 motor vehicles, and a US-made M777 howitzer. 2 electronic warfare stations and an ammunition depot were eliminated. Units of the Zapad Group of Forces improved the tactical situation. Russian formations engaged 2 mechanized brigades, an air assault brigade of the AFU, a territorial defense brigade, and a National Guard brigade close to Kupiansk, Iziumskoye in Kharkov region, Krasny Lyman, and Kirovsk, Donetsk People's Republic. The AFU losses amounted to more than 230 troops, 2 armored fighting vehicles, 25 motor vehicles, a Grad MLRS, and 3 field artillery guns. 4 electronic warfare stations and 6 ammunition depots were neutralized. Units of the YUG Group of Forces took more advantageous lines and positions. 3 mechanized brigades of the Armed Forces of Ukraine and a territorial defense brigade were hit near Seversk, Drushkovka, Berstok, Stepanovka, and Konstantinovka, Donetsk People's Republic. The enemy lost more than 200 troops, a US-made HMMWV armored vehicle, 6 motor vehicles, and an artillery gun. 2 electronic warfare stations and an ammunition depot were eliminated. Units of the Tsender Group of Forces improved the situation along the front line. Strikes were delivered at manpower and hardware of 4 mechanized brigades, an infantry brigade, 2 air assault brigades of the Armed Forces of Ukraine, a marine brigade, and a territorial defense brigade near Rodinskoye, Moravka, Dmitrov, and Krasnoarmysk, Donetsk People's Republic. The AFU losses amounted to more than 520 troops, a German-made Leopard tank, an armored fighting vehicle, 6 motor vehicles, and a field artillery gun. As a result of active offensive operations, the Vostok Group of Forces liberated Sosnovka in Dnipropetrovsk region. Russian troops hit units of 2 mechanized brigades of the Armed Forces of Ukraine, a Marine brigade, and a territorial defense brigade near Chervonoy, Zaporizhzhia region, Ivanovka, Verbovoy, Kalinovskoye, and Vishnevoy, Dnipropetrovsk region. The AFU lost more than 265 troops, 2 armored fighting vehicles, 9 motor vehicles, and an electronic warfare station. The Dnepr Group of Forces inflicted losses on manpower and hardware of a mechanized brigade, a coastal defense brigade of the Armed Forces of Ukraine, and a National Guard brigade near Stepnogorsk, Malaya Tokmachka, Zaporizhzhia region, Algovka, and Antonovka, Kherson region. The enemy losses were up to 50 servicemen, an armored personnel carrier, and 10 motor vehicles. 3 electronic warfare stations and an ammunition depot were neutralized. Operational tactical aviation, attack drones, missile troops and artillery of the Russian groups of forces have engaged in Israeli-made Rada multifunctional radar, missile, and artillery weapons depots, material dumps as well as temporary deployment areas of the Ukrainian armed formations and foreign mercenaries in 147 areas. Air defense systems shot down 3 guided aerial bombs, 4 UVS-made HIMARS MLRS projectiles, a Neptune long-range missile, and 166 fixed-wing unmanned aerial vehicles. In total, since the beginning of the special military operation, the enemy has lost 666 aircraft, 283 helicopters, 83,066 unmanned aerial vehicles, 628 anti-aircraft missile systems, 25,047 tanks and other armored fighting vehicles, 1,591 MLRS combat vehicles, 29,471 field artillery guns and mortars, 41,520 units of support military vehicles,